It is the place where students can cultivate their desire to be the best version of themselves.
It has enabled me to meet fellow graduates all around the world.
The university taught me that dreams are achievable.
I was a mature student and it gave me confidence.
It's a fantastic place with great energy, both from the internal community and external community.
As a student, DCU helped me figure out who I wanted to be. And now, as a lecturer, I get to try and do the same for my students.
DCU has been my home for the past 5 years, and I've learned that DCU always puts the student first.
The DCU Access Service has given me an opportunity for a brighter future.
DCU gave me the international exposure I was looking for. Since the international standards are so high, DCU pushes me to be at the best of my game always.
DCU has brought a new dimension into my life in the form of new friends.
Tá an clubhanna agus suki anseo I DCU agus tám I mamal den a lán suki freisin, agus mar sin rinne mé a lán chairde nua anseo I DCU.
The university has given me the opportunity to broadcast my voice.
I'm always struck by the shared values of the DCU community and the way in which students, staff and alumni are focused on transforming lives and societies.
The most transformative experience for me in DCU has been working with asylum seekers for the MELI project and working towards cultural assimilation.
The university allowed me to combine both my sporting and academic careers, allowing me to perform on the world-class stage, winning a European Championship medal, multiple World Championship medals and multiple World Cup medals.
It has provided me with many learning opportunities to learn from athletes from all over the world.
It gives me the opportunity to excel academically and on track.
The impact DCU had on me personally has been profound. The MBA allowed me to harness the learnings I had from the sports field into a different environment. I feel I can make a real difference in my role with DCU Educational Trust by assisting DCU transforming lives and society.
In the library, students grow in confidence.
With perseverance and the right attitude, people can do anything.
DCU is about making a difference.
Everybody knows DCU as a university that makes a difference to the world around us. Our students have their lives transformed by their experience here, especially through their employability, and Access students are the best example of that. But we've also transformed this region through our dramatically increased footprint, through our contribution to jobs, arts and culture in the region. DCU, the university that makes a difference.
Hello everyone and welcome to Dublin City University and our National Anti-Bullying Research and Resource Centre, where today we are hosting the first virtual Tribes Action meeting. Tribes is a very important European cost action project that focuses on the experiences of migrant children and school bullying. In today's meeting, we will hear reports from 6 working group leaders who are continuously working with all of you, our members, throughout the year. There are over 120 scholars and researchers and professionals who are working in this area as part of the Tribes project. And together, all of you today will be able to work in small groups as part of this meeting. And what you produce in those small groups will feed into the overall project. We will also have a case study report from our colleagues in Albania, who we were supposed to join earlier this year, but were unable to do so because of COVID. So today will be a wonderful experience. Today will be a very special experience for all of us to come together in the Tribes family, to work together to make a difference for migrant children in schools all over Europe. We hope you really enjoy this experience.
Good afternoon, dear COST Tribe members. I'm happy to present on behalf of my colleagues from Working Group 1. So just as a quick reminder, the overarching goal of Working Group 1 is to develop a school climate measurement tool that addresses the specific needs and challenges of schools that cater to students and families with migrant backgrounds with specific and particular interest in schools that cater to working immigrants, refugees, and asylum-seeking populations. We are interested in designing a useful tool to collect the multiple perspectives of the entire school community, such that comparison between the different perspectives would be achievable. Because there is not much scientific knowledge on the topic, we first wanted to gather more concrete knowledge on the experience of the different stakeholders in the schools serving migrant and refugee populations in Europe. To that end, we employed a qualitative approach and conducted semi-structured, in-depth interviews using the same interview guides in all participating countries. And the interviews focused on children and educators' perceptions of the school everyday life, needs and unmet needs in the school, relationships with peers and other adults in the school, violence and bullying, connectedness, engagement to the school, perceptions of tolerance, inclusion, and more. So interviews were carried out in Ireland, Italy, Israel, and Hungary, which overall included 6 teachers, 5 students, 4 social workers, and 2 school leaders. And next, I will share just a taste of some of the findings that emerged through this explorative qualitative phase, and then I will finalize with the next steps that our group wishes to pursue. So one central theme that emerged from the interviews was related to challenges experienced by educators. And some educators expressed a feeling of being left alone to deal with the mounting tasks and problems and responsibilities that working with migrant population summons, without receiving proper support and resources from the Ministry of Education and the government, and even from the school leadership. Educators invest a lot in working with parents around parental practices, explaining that beating children is not allowed, illegal, and not an acceptable practice. For instance, one teacher told us a story about a 12-year-old a student who had many head louse, and they told her parents so that they would treat her to take the louse off her head, but then instead, at the very same day, they completely shaved her head, and she showed up to school the next day completely bald, without even a hat or a kerchief to cover up her head, and she was completely ashamed and humiliated. And so teachers also expressed difficulties due to language barriers. And similarly, parents, on the other hand, also said that schools should invest more effort and have greater awareness of parents' language barriers. They also said that many problems cannot be solved by the school alone, especially economic problems and the associated difficulties, such as not enough food, hungry students, unhealthy nutrition, difficulties of students to buy the school materials. On the other, one of the school leaders suggested to make schools a one-stop shop in order to be able to address the mounting problems and difficulties of asylum-seeking population and refugees. These students need medical and psychological treatment, early childhood education and care, nutrition-related treatment, and more. So pooling of resources and providing these services in the school building could help to reach out to the community and promote the successful integration of refugee parents and families. Other educators expressed a need for greater support by the schools in teaching in multicultural classroom, for example, when dealing with kids who have limited English or language abilities. Other themes that emerged were related to bullying, violence, and harassment. For example, some told us about racist-based bullying and violence among migrant children, for example, between African immigrants coming from different tribes and being racist towards one another. On the other hand, there were many others who said that they feel very safe both physically and emotionally in schools, and that they do not experience any violence at all. So that was a good finding to find out. Regarding tolerance and inclusion, many told us that schools are tolerant towards diversity and inclusive towards newcomers, towards LGBTQ students, and that the school organizes some multicultural events for students and the family and asks parents to bring food from their own countries and cultures. And so they show their respect for diversity and cultural pluralism inside the school. So these were just a few of the findings that we found. And today we begin using these results to adapt existing school climate measurement tools such that they will address the themes that emerge from the interviews. And we also wish to use the next year to run the new instruments in the different countries and check for reliability and validity of the adapted instruments, and also check for the associated outcomes for students in terms of educational or psychological or behavioral outcomes. So thank you very much, and have a good day.
Welcome everybody, it is János Győri. I am talking about Working Group 2. So the task of Working Group 2 is to gather and assess evidence of the best practice, how schools cope with bullying related to ethnic and faith diversity among children of immigrant backgrounds, taking into account gender and age. Therefore, we collect data in a target school in each country of the group members: Belgium, Greece, Ireland, Hungary, Malta, Norway, Portugalia, Romania, maybe later also Turkey, where there are immigrant children among students. We unfold the characteristics of the target school, the composition of the students from the aspects of immigration, and the students' bullying experiences in the school. We collect data on methods and projects, how the school prevents and handles bullying issues in case of the immigrant students, and analyze these programs from the aspects of their effectiveness. So we concentrate on good practices in the schools, in the fields of prevention and solution of bullying against immigrant students. However, in the last half year, we couldn't go ahead dynamically in our job because the schools were closed in most of our countries. We didn't find a way how to collect data. We finally decided to wait until September and check the situation. Now we see that most of the schools are open in our countries, so we can start data collection. However, now we prefer online data collection because the situation is still complicated. Just as an example, in my country, in Hungary, the schools are open, but nobody is allowed to enter the schools but the students and teachers of the institution. Even the parents of the students are not allowed to enter the school. With the guidance of our Norwegian colleagues, we prepared the questionnaire which we adapt to online data collection in these days and distribute in the target schools. Also, we carry out interviews in the coming months via internet.
This is the progress report of Working Group 3, School Bullying, Tolerance and Integration, establishing and appraising best practice. In the last few months, we've compiled data and information on programs from 7 countries represented in our working groups. We focused on programs targeting bullying, victimization, and tried to pay special attention to issues of migration, integration, diversity related to ethnicity, etc. We decided to continue working in 4 subgroups because we felt that after an initial more like flashlight analysis of the available data and information, we need to go deeper and do so in a systematic fashion. So we formed 4 subgroups, each subgroup trying to do a first analysis and establish cross-country comparisons. One subgroup is related to legal frameworks and the policy level. So what is the legal and policy related context of prevention of bullying and violence, and are there any specific regulations also relating to integration, migration, etc. One subgroup wants to analyze the specific program elements and how they have been implemented. The third subgroup wants to analyze program designs, quality and outcomes, and also develop something like a classification of interventions. And for that, we also started to get in touch with Working Group 1, because we feel that especially when it comes to scientifically developed and evaluated program, the Working Group 1 and their literature review might also be a good basis for cooperation, collaboration. So we try to find out how we can support each other's work. The fourth subgroup wants to analyze target populations of those programs with a specific focus on migration and ethnicity. And we want also then to start to collaborate across subgroups to really draw something like a contextualized picture of bullying prevention and intervention, especially relating to migration, ethnicity, etc. in each country, but also across countries. And our first milestone regarding deliverables would be to have, on the one hand, national descriptions, and on the other hand, also a first handbook article going deeper and describing what can be learned from the status quo in those 7 countries. And a further step would be to refine and also simplify at the same time our kind of analytical tool, so that we can make it available to action members from other countries, so that they might also start to collect data and information and feed into our working group, just as we are feeding some of our information and data also in other working groups. So this is what I can tell you at this point. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, my name is Dr. Niamh O'Brien, and I'm here to provide the feedback for Working Group 4, Pupil Voice and the Promotion of Inclusion. During this presentation, I will be focusing specifically on a literature review we have conducted, some work we have done in subgroups, and some of the issues that we are experiencing in Working Group 4. So, for the purposes of this review, I will use the term pupil to refer to all school-aged children and young people. So for our literature review, we focused specifically on 4 areas, and these topics around pupil voice were migration and integration, active involvement in decision making, bullying and social exclusion, and identity and cultural diversity as related to migration. For topic 1, pupil voice and migration, inclusion and integration, this literature suggests that schools can be places that promote social connectedness and integration among immigrant and native pupils and families, and can be considered as places that promote community cohesion. However, migrant pupils have also reported negative experiences of schooling, including underachievement and bullying. Although examples of good practice identified in the literature, such as creative methods for ascertaining pupil views, promote inclusion and integration on both the classroom and school level, a sensitive and critical approach towards multicultural education is more developed on a theoretical and hypothetical level than on a practical one. Our second topic looked at pupil voice and active involvement in decision making. And this literature focuses on the active involvement pupils have in decision making more generally in schools, and considers some of the initiatives used to generate pupil voice. The rhetoric versus the reality of this process is considered before concluding that adults' willingness to actively listen and act on what pupils tell them is the crux of involvement in decision making. This literature recognises the many one-off participatory activities happening in organisations, including schools, but few embed pupil decision making within their culture. Topic 3 focuses on pupil voice and bullying and social exclusion. This literature starts from the premise that hearing from pupils should not be done to feed an adult-led agenda, and focuses on practical approaches including peer mediation, school-based approaches and culturally diverse classrooms. The importance of friendship was explored, and specific bullying of migrant pupils was identified, including migrants feeling the need to conceal their heritage for fear of bullying and discrimination. Topic 4 focused on pupil voice and identity and cultural diversity as related to migration. The views of young refugees and migrant pupils are beginning to emerge in the research literature and subsequently be heard by policymakers and practitioners. The role of supporting settling migrants with specific attention paid to diversity in school materials, young people's perceptions of ethnic other, using the arts to promote understanding of cultural diversity and teacher attitudes were explored. And following this literature review, we divided ourselves into 2 subgroups. So the first subgroup was exploring topics 1 and 4, and the second subgroup have explored topics 2 and 3. So subgroup 1 and 4 are currently working on collating the research literature on pupil voice and migration, inclusion and integration and identity and cultural diversity, and this is a work in progress. The questions from both migrant pupils' perspectives as well as the wider research literature guiding this search focuses on how migrant pupils have been heard in relation to migration and promoting identity and cultural diversity in the school environment, how pupils have been involved in inclusive practices in schools related to migration and integration, and are there any differences in how migrant and native pupils view the process of having their voices heard in migration practices. Subgroup 2 and 3 have been exploring pupil voice and active involvement in decision making and bullying and social exclusion. And despite the vast literature reviewed, it was difficult to find practice examples focusing on migrant pupils' involvement in anti-bullying policies per se. In Finland, for example, youth councils have been involved in planning anti-bullying policies, and migrant young people are part of these councils. In addition, peer support programmes operate in schools across Europe at both primary and secondary level, and they represent the diversity of their schools. In England, examples at a local school level show a school's attempt to reduce marginalisation and bullying of migrant pupils. Cumberland Secondary School in London, for example, employed a Roma teaching assistant to work in classes with pupils and to be available during lunch and break times for pupils to speak to about any issues that they might be having. This initiative has enabled the pupils to have a voice through a member of their community, as well as raising the profile of Roma pupils in the school, thus reducing incidences of bullying and social exclusion. Finally, the issues that we have been having as Working Group 4 are mainly around COVID-19, because this has meant that we have been unable to progress with any plans for data collection. We would like to speak to pupils and schools about pupil voice, specifically for migrant pupils. Is this process different for native pupils? We have therefore had to rely on searching the literature, and for some countries this literature is more available than for others. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Muthanna Samara and I am a professor of psychology at the Department of Psychology at Kingston University, London in the UK. I'm the leader of Group 5 on school design and safety. The group constitutes of 6 people. The objectives in the first year were to investigate the importance given at national and local level to addressing the design of school buildings and grounds in relation to school safety, integration and reduction of violence and or bullying, and what the adaptive steps, if any, are taken in regards to working with immigrants and ethnic groups. This group has started later than the other groups, and thus the first year activities were a review of existing literature and initiating a special issue. So we initiated a special issue to collate cross-national evidence on school building design and its impact on school safety issues. So we announced a call for papers for a thematic issue of the International Journal of Emotional Education on school design, climate and safety, strategies for anti-bullying interventions and inclusiveness. The topics that were included in special issue for the call included school ground and playground design and their effects on bullying and marginalization. Secondly, the importance of pupils' participatory on school design and bullying interventions. Thirdly, school design and relationships and communication among and between pupils and teaching and non-teaching staff. And then finally, innovative anti-bullying interventions and data collection methods based on school design and safety. The leaders of this special issue are Professor Peter Smith and myself, and we received around 11 abstracts where 5 papers were invited to submit full papers. We have received around 5 now, and we are in the reviewing process. Future objectives include investigating the importance given at national and local level to addressing the design of school buildings and grounds in relation to school safety, integration, and reduction of violence and or bullying, and what are the adaptive steps, if any, are taken in regards to working with immigrants and ethnic groups. Secondly, establish the consultative use of community policing and or private security firms by schools in enhancing school security. And thirdly, to include the voices of young people themselves as students in making suggestions for schools to operate as child-friendly and safe spaces. And thus the tasks will involve firstly performing systematic review and meta-analysis of existing work, research and actions, to gather evidence of prominence given to school building design by national and local authorities in regard to school safety and what difficulties may exist, and then write a review article around these topics. Tasks will include also collect evidence of use of community policing, security, firm programs within school to improve school safety, and then also assess the evidence of steps taken to incorporate migrant and ethnic groups, and then review school policies in order to build a safe environment for pupils, students, staff, and non-staff members. Later on in the third year, we will also look at different objectives, including to establish the concept of safety in schools, to reduce bullying, and how schools can be inclusive of migrants. Also to include recommendations towards the creation of cross-national policy and contribution to guidelines. And thus the tasks will include to design a map and rules of the safe and unsafe spots in schools and around schools based on data collected from all parties involved in schools. Secondly, we will also analyze the mechanism, how teachers, psychologists, and teachers react when students tell them that they do not feel safe, and what protocols they have in place. And then another task will include to construct a general questionnaire about the safe places in children's life, and then review existing regulations about school designs, including building new schools and improving existing schools. What kind of regulations these should include. And thus data can be collected from ministries of education from different countries. We would like to invite everyone to join this group. Anyone who is interested, please get in touch with me on m.samara@kingston.ac.uk. Thank you so much for listening.
Good morning, Action members. I would like to make a short update of what we do in workgroup number 6, that is primarily focused on the role of media in both positive and negative sense in prejudice-based bullying and cyberbullying. So the first thing I would like to remind that we have done the short survey among Action members on statistics and on information how media and media campaigns were used in this kind of bullying and cyberbullying, also in broader sense, because there were not many specific programs using media that were in place in the countries we researched. But this is the past. This is the Dublin conference when we presented it, the Dublin meeting. And currently there are a few things we are doing. So the first thing is, let's say, led informally by Udo Kaiser, also with UK and Netherlands teams. It's the study on school climate and how the media are used to maintain and to develop school climate. And there are problems with the surveys now. Of course, due to COVID, there were problems, particularly in Germany, where when the data collection added up with 5% response rate, but I think now it's bigger. And also they have made short case study how the media could be used in prevention programs. So this is the first area. The second area is the area where there is the literature review by Heidi van der Bosch and some group with Heidi van der Bosch, when they focus on both positive use of new media in prevention of bullying and cyberbullying, but also they look for the negative side, particularly at the platforms and places where such actions take place. And this is the literature review, let's say, sub part. Then there is the kind of research led by Sandra that is focused on helplines as the specific usage of media, like in both voice helplines and chat helplines, where when the technology is used actually to report and to get advice on the problems. So it was done, and they also gathered some material from the network members from each country, not from each country, but from the countries that have sent it out. And we also done this through the office, through the main headquarters. And there is also something we are doing in Poland. There is the kind of study that is the, let's say, grounded theory study, when we send out really open general questions to school headmasters all over Poland to get information, just not specified. We wanted them to specify it, to get the information about what problems they face and how they overcome those problems, connected to integration of migrant children, but also the problems of peer violence when those children are targeted. And we are now mapping this, finding really interesting results that we will be able to show at the next meeting. So I would say shortly, this is it. Thank you very much.
Hello, it's Amador Ordóñez from Spain. I will talk to you about the communication within our previous project. We are using 4 main means of communication, all of them important. The first one is the website of the project. We have developed the website of the project, as you know already, chiliusproject.eu. We have developed it at the beginning, and we are updating according to the comments and suggestions of the partners. And in the website we have included information about the project, information about the consortium. We have included a heading also called research with studies, with the links to studies that you've sent to us, you share with us. and we include also a section called News, where we put information on things that happen around the project. We have put information there about the two general meetings, the meeting in Brussels, the meeting in Ireland also. And the idea is to update it as we do things, that we have more project activities. The second mean of communication is social nets. Social net is quite important, as you know, nowadays, and is the main way to reach new people, to reach new target groups. We are using Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we are posting in the three of them. We are using mainly as topics bullying, migration, and refugees and integration. We publish contents here about the activities of the project, but we will need from you more information, and we will need also that you share the links that you put in our websites, in our own social nets, and any information that you can share with us for us to share in our social nets is welcome and is very important for the dissemination of the project. We are using another mean of communication, which is the press releases. Press releases are quite important, and we have only a few of them. These press releases we also share with our website, and so there are two impacts. One is the press release itself, and another one is within our website. I think that because of it is an important project from the European point of view, and because we are many partners and of us, we are involved in activities related to this topic, if all of us have published something and share with us, it will be very important. So for not underuse that it is happening now, this mean of communication, please publish articles, share with the press articles, and share them with us. For mean of communication is newsletters. We have published one newsletter already last month, middle September, and the idea is to publish new newsletter until the end of the project. And just for finishing this introduction, I want to let you know something. In the last steering group committee meeting last month also, on the 24th of September, we agreed that it will be important for the project to create a subcommittee for communication. Please, those of you that could be interested in joining this subcommittee, send information to the project coordination for the project coordination share this information with the steering group, with the steering committee, and then take the decisions. It's very important to have people in this committee because we feel that we need more information to put in the social nets, to put in the website, and to put in our newsletter. Thanks a lot.
So last April, we were supposed to meet in Albania with our colleagues there to learn about what they're doing to address migration issues related to bullying. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we were unable to be there. So to make up for that and to give us a sense of what's going on in Albania, we're very lucky now to have some reports from some of the children that we would have met when we were there. So I'd like to introduce you now to some of our friends from Albania.
Hi, today I would like to talk to you about a very difficult subject, bullying. We've all heard about it and we've all seen it in actions, so I would like to take a few minutes and talk about it. But first, we need to define what bullying is. Bullying is the use of force and threat to aggressively dominate and intimidate others. This behavior is a repeated activity intending to hurt others emotionally and physically. Also, I would like to remember that we should treat others the same way we would like to be treated.
Bullying is a phenomenon that we encounter every day in reality in our schools and community. Many children and teens don't even know where to take help. Everyone should know that we are all the same, there to help and change the world.
I'm here to talk about bullying. Bullying is a verbal attack which is made by people making fun of you or calling you on offensive nicknames. There's also cyberbullying, which is on an electronic way. This behavior is often caused on school areas by people thinking they're more powerful or they have more material than others, which are the victims. They ignored this situation, this behavior for many years, and now it's become very serious because it's becoming physical abuse. People are being judged by the way they dress, the way they talk, the way they write, and every way they make things.
Bullying is an act of violence and abuse. It's a vicious assault on the mind, body, and spirit. For me, bullying is not just a problem, it's a crime. In its wake, it brings shame, guilt, self-loathing, isolation. It can destroy relationships and wreck family life. Bullying is a growing problem that cannot be ignored. We should address this issue. We all need to work together. We all need to discuss that problem at our home, school, community, in order to put an end to verbal and physical intimidation. Don't bully. Imagine a world when the words you speak appear on your skin. Would you be more careful of what you say? And don't let them bully you. You shouldn't give up. Fight for yourself and fight for who you really are.
Thanks to our colleagues in Albania for putting together that short video for us with children who we would have met had we been lucky enough to travel to Tirana last April. Hopefully we'll get there again sometime in the future. But also thanks to all of you, over 120 people today who've zoomed in to join us for this important meeting of the Tribes Project. Today we've had a management committee meeting and we've had 6 working group meetings, and we've also learned a little bit more about what's going on in the overall project. This is really important work that we're doing together, and all of us will find ways to link in with each other despite COVID and despite not being able to travel to each other's countries. The project will continue. Thanks for joining us in DCU today, and a special word of thanks to my colleagues Sarah and Garvin, who made this possible in terms of technology and Zooming and all registration and all those things that have to be done to mean that we can all link in with each other today. Your presence was very much appreciated, and we will be in touch. Thank you and goodbye.